What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another video here on Let's Talk Resident Evil. And I wanted to make this video to discuss some of the stuff going around involving Resident Evil Zero and some of the stuff you may have heard online. Sometimes, I don't want to make these videos, but I know that it has to keep the discussion moving. And if I don't make a video about it, multiple people will just keep asking me in the comments and the live chats and everything. So to just make a definitive video about it, to cover it for the sake of the Resident Evil space. Now, none of this stuff is officially confirmed. You know how I usually, preface these videos with just saying, just take it with a grain of salt. A lot of these leaks and rumors come from the same exact source. And you guys know I'm not too fond of said individuals, where these sources come from. I think there's a lot of people that, take things for face value. And even though some things might sound like they line up perfectly, there is no confirmation. And I just want to preface that right away, right out of the gate. The biggest rumor right now, and we did talk about this last year. Now, last year was really quiet with Resident Evil. We know this. Us in the Resident Evil space, we're not, pumping out content as far as like news. It was just like some leaks and speculations. And this is very similar to that, right? We know that Capcom has been working really hard on Resident Evil 9 and other titles. We know they usually work on multiple titles at once. But what is the other title that isn't Resident Evil 9? Well, last year we saw Resident Evil 1 Remake and Resident Evil Zero Remake was rumored. Now, I guess Resident Evil 1 would be a remake, but essentially a remake of 1 again, and 0 is essentially what a lot of people were speculating, that it would be released for the 30th anniversary. So it's an easy thing to speculate. It's an easy thing to look at that date as the big 30, and will Capcom actually put out a remake first before they put out a Resident Evil 9? Because I personally don't believe that an RE9 would be coming out this year. It might get revealed this year. It might get shown at a Capcom event, maybe a PlayStation event down the road, but I don't think it's coming out this year. So we'll see what their decisions are with that. But the biggest thing with Resident Evil Zero is this getting a remake, along with a live-action Resident Evil Zero movie. Now, we know that Constantine Films needs to put out a film by 2026 to retain the rights, and we knew that this movie, which I also covered last year with the leaks, that was actually confirmed by a lot of the production stuff that was coming out with some of the expenses and the budget. It was codenamed Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. That was just kind of a name that they had out there. But the rumor is that it is going to be for sure based on Resident Evil Zero. So another thing that might come out to align with the Resident Evil 30th anniversary. The biggest thing here that I think is kind of, BS when it comes to these leaks, and again, this is why I look at them like, really? Like, I don't think so, is the fact that this is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive. They could be in talks with Capcom to make a deal between Nintendo and Capcom, similar to what they did in the early to mid-2000s with the Nintendo GameCube run that they had of Capcom games and Resident Evil games alike. I don't think this is true at all. Now, I know the Switch 2 is going to be revealed this week, or it's supposed to be revealed this week as of this recording, and rumors are saying Thursday for the actual console reveal. Now, the Switch 2 is going to be more powerful. It's going to be, more aligned with running games at a, stable frame rate, better resolution. This is stuff that we really want to see from Nintendo, and I do want to see a time where we get to run Resident Evil 2 Remake, 3 Remake, 7 and 8, and even 4 Remake on the Switch 2 without having to stream them like how you have to currently with the, Switch that we have now that is, obviously just outdated at this point as far as what it can do with games like, Resident Evil running on the RE engine that really need that extra power. So to see Resident Evil 0 Remake or 1 Remake on the Switch 2 when they eventually get done will be awesome, but I don't think it would be an exclusive for the Switch 2. Not saying they will never make an exclusive deal with Nintendo again, but I just don't see it. I think it would just cut off a lot of people from playing it, even if it's a timed exclusive, I just don't see that being the case. I think with these remakes, they put all of them out simultaneously. Why would they specifically do this to Zero? What, just because it originally came out on Nintendo GameCube? It just doesn't really seem like it fits, and Capcom knows how to really strategically plan these releases so it gets to as many people as possible. So I just don't see that happening. Now, could they eventually do a spin-off maybe one day that could be just for the Switch 2 and then eventually come to other consoles? Sure. But for a remake, I just don't see it happening with Zero or 1 Remake. I think it will also come to the Switch 2, but I don't think it's going to be an exclusive title. Do I doubt Remake 1 and Remake 0 happening? I don't doubt it. I think that it's a, wise choice to do it for the 30th anniversary, right? But I just think that, some of the leakers and some of the information that comes out, it was very contradictory, because when they first came out earlier last year, or I think it was earlier last year or in the middle, whenever it was, when we heard of these, leaks, it was immediately like, oh no, you guys are overstepping it. It's way out in development. It's not coming out anytime soon. And then all of a sudden these leakers are saying, oh, now it's coming out in 2026. It's like, okay, it's far off or further off, or is it close? Which one is it? Again, very contradictory. That's why I don't even believe a lot of this stuff that happens. Now, for a remake of 1 and 0, even disregarding the leaks, yes, obviously it makes sense for Capcom to have something that is the origins of Resident Evil to kind of wrap up that cycle of remakes in the 30th anniversary time slot. Yes, that makes sense. But I personally think that Resident Evil 9 might be coming out sooner than later. I mean, they might have something in 2026 for Resident Evil 9. I would have thought that that would have been released first. Again, we know they're working on multiple games at multiple, different studios and stuff like that within Capcom. That's usually how they delegate to, other people to get these games done. So that goes without saying. Even if a leaker or a rumor said that, that is like an obvious statement, just saying that out of the gate. They're working on multiple games at once. They've always done that. That anybody could just throw a dart at a board and just say, boom, that's what we're going to say, and just say it online and, try to give themselves more clout. So I'm just saying that, with Resident Evil Zero, I just don't see it being a Switch exclusive. I think that is a bunch of bullshit. But I do think that we will be seeing a Resident Evil 1 remake, maybe a Resident Evil Zero remake sooner than later for that 30th anniversary. Do they combine the games? Do they put out 2 games in 1 year? They could potentially do that, but it would just be a lot on the whole sales thing. You don't want to clutter, the market too much. You want to make sure that each game gets its, gets what it deserves, right? So I don't know how they would combine them, or how they would potentially make this one big origin story without, taking out or cutting out significant parts of the game. And we know how fans feel about that when that happens with Resident Evil. So you don't want to overstep and get too excited. I think both of these games deserve remakes from the ground up. They both do. And they should be released accordingly to whatever schedule they have set up. So I don't even necessarily think it all has to happen in 2026 for the 30th anniversary. Give it time. If you want to put out RE9 on the 30th anniversary, or maybe RE0 first and then put out one later, it doesn't all have to come crashing down on March of 2026, which is a pretty fast turnaround time for all 3 games to hit in the same year, which is what a lot of people have been saying. So hopefully Capcom just has the right idea with how they want to go about this. I don't doubt that these remakes aren't coming, because 0 and 1 are glaring in that light of Resident Evil of they need to be remade at this point, because you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, and 1 remake, which is my favorite remake of all time, was all the way back in 2002. So there's definitely a, RE engine or a Rex engine, depending on what they're pushing at that time. Probably still RE engine. I know the Rex engine is, going to be incorporated in some of the future titles sooner rather than later, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just want to say, take it all with a grain of salt. As far as the Resident Evil movie, we do know that's pretty much happening no matter what. They have to keep those, license agreements in place and in check. And of course, with the Resident Evil, timeline of it being 2026 and the 30th anniversary, we definitely will get something. And we may get a reveal at some point this year, but as of now, it's been actually quiet on the official word of what's going on next with Capcom and Resident Evil. So let's see, once Monster Hunter is put out and they get all that promotion done, maybe after that, we may actually see something from a Capcom or even a Resident Evil specific event, which would go more into detail. It might show RE9, it might show the remakes they're working on. So let's just hang tight. I know a lot of people are thirsty for official word on what they're doing. Right now, it's all just rumors and speculation, so just take it as that. But let me know what you think down in the comments with Resident Evil Zero being remade. Would you want to see this remade along with the first game? It seems like they would have to do both of them at this point, but it all doesn't have to come out at one time in 2026, or it might. You know, I don't know how they're going to do it. If they do it all in one big game, that would be a very hefty project, but it's something where as long as they separate each game and they don't take anything out from those individual games, it should be fine. You know what I mean? They'll definitely add those much needed improvements, that especially Zero with the whole item dropping and partner system. Hopefully they adjust all that stuff and we get to see those improvements there. And with Resident Evil 1 Remake, we'll just get a over-the-shoulder style in the Spencer Mansion. And don't take Lisa Trevor out. Don't take the Crimson Heads out. Try to leave all that stuff in. That would be my advice. But, you know, I'm not a developer, so that's just my 2 cents. But let me know in the comments what you think of this news. And again, take it with a grain of salt. And I also just don't think that Switch 2 would have a RE0 exclusive title or even an RE exclusive title. I just don't see that happening. But, you know, we'll see. Stranger things have happened, and I've been wrong before. So this is just me giving my 2 cents on the situation and the rumors and leaks. So that's it for now. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more LTRE content. And we'll see you in the next one.